And we're back. Well, let me try that again. We're not back. We're here for the first time. I'm Mr. Ben, and this is the end phase. The excellent title for this show was suggested by Exodus the Omega over on the Versus Illuminati Discord, which is the only one for actual versus conversation, apparently. So, I had a heck of a day. Today is May 7th, and I'm going to talk about the events of May 6th. I'm going to talk about some historical interactions that I've had with Upper Deck, and I'm going to reveal some stuff publicly on this video. That's the first time I've ever said it anywhere. Uh, I do want to start off, though, by saying a couple things that this video is not. This video is not intended to influence your buying choices. If what you want to do is support Upper Deck games and you're really stoked about Nano Pets, I think you should buy Nano Pets. If you're super hype about Rush of Vicor, buy Rush of Vicor. If more Versus content ever comes out, I hope it does really well. It survives. I hope it does so well that Upper Deck decides to stop treating this game like an annoyance. So I am not wishing anything ill on Upper Deck, nor am I wishing ill on any of the specific employees. If you hear this story and you have feelings about it and you want to share them with Upper Deck, I implore that you do so in a respectful and chill manner. Do not harass anybody. That's not being on my side. That's not helping. That's not what I want. What I want is for people to treat each other generally well. I don't always live up to the best standards. Sometimes I say things that are unkind. Sometimes I can be a little bit mean. But I don't want to encourage harassing behavior. I think harsh criticism, even of me, is really important. I think it's important for a person. I think it's important for, like, the only way we get better is by identifying flaws. So before I get into all this, one last thing. I want to encourage everyone to go to the Upper Deck Discord and read these exchanges for themselves. Read what I said in my own words as I said it without knowing where it was heading. Because as much as I'm going to try to present like an unvarnished and like clear objective picture of what happened, the fact is I I am so involved in this that some bias may creep in. Like you have every reason to think that there's a perspective on my story, and that some of this may not be. This is all going to come from my perspective. So again, I just implore you. I'm going to try to be as honest as I can. I'm going to say everything that I can factually back up. But go read the exchange, and if you read it and you come away thinking like, "Oh, Ben was not in the right here," that's okay too. Let me know. Say so in the comments. If you find something in my video that I got wrong, please put it in the comments so other people will know. I will pin it. I will, my intent here is not to smear or slander. Uh, so what happened? All right. To take a little bit of a running start at this, if there's people watching who aren't already like hardcore Versus fans, Versus at the end of last year got what many of us believe to be its final expansion. We got a notice from Upper Deck that they were ending organized play. Now, the death of organized play often leads to the death of a card game. There's a lot of players who aren't interested in a game if there isn't a tournament scene with cash prizes, etc. It just we've all been around these kinds of spaces long enough to have some understanding that death of organized play is not a good thing. So we've been told, though, for half a year to hold on. There's a Versus announcement coming, and every time no announcement is made, there's an announcement coming soon. There's an announcement coming soon. There's an announcement coming soon. At some point, you wonder if the definition of the word soon that Upper Deck operates under is different than which you could find in the English dictionary. So it's May. Comment was made in the Versus server. Hey, it's May. Where's this announcement you've been promising for half a year? And we got the same, oh, it's a legal thing this time. It's the legal team hasn't given approvals. There is some chance that there is a legal issue. That could be true. That is also the character of the sort of thing you would say if the real answer is, hey, we're not going to say anything. There's no news, but like, here's a scapegoat. This kind of thing has come up before. So after months of hearing this, I decided to stop saying. Somebody pointed out that it was May. Fredo comes in and makes a nothing announcement, scapegoating the legal team for why there's nothing to say. And I say, I've reached a point where I just don't believe it. I don't believe that there's news coming. I think the game is dead. Many people have already said this. I am not coming out here with a controversial or new opinion. Many people, when this thing popped off yesterday, the reaction I got from a bunch of people was, "Wait, didn't this game already get canceled?" This is the state of things. In my opinion, if Upper Deck still intended to release new product, they would guard the value of the product that they have, the installed customer base. The Versus community has been bleeding out our player base for half a year, and Upper Deck has made absolutely zero effort to tell people, no, no, please stay. So my opinion, and I said this yesterday, is that if I have a bunch of product in the warehouse I'm getting ready to sell, and my lawyer tells me I can't tell my customers I have this product to sell, and my customers are all leaving the store and going to buy somebody else's product because of this delay, I'm finding new lawyers. Like, this is just unreasonable at this point. There are plenty of businesses that if they had a big announcement about product to get to their customer base and they waited 6 months to make that announcement, they would go out of business. Those businesses would cease to exist. Now, we know that's not going to be the case with Upper Deck because their entertainment section of their business is small. Obviously they make their money in sports cards. We have always been aware that we're treated as not even a secondary priority, but like so far down the priority list, they don't have a word for it. Uh, it is it is frustrating to be a Versus fan, and I have put my time in this game. I have gone on when Upper Deck did their bringing community people onto their stream. I was on the very first one that happened with Stacks. I have put together some of the highest view count Versus events that have existed in the history of this game. I have worked with Upper Deck as much as they would work with me to try to build hype about this game and help it survive and thrive. Always. But I have also built my podcast on telling the truth. Now, there's a reason I'm not going to put this out on the podcast. This is only going to be in video form. And I don't want this on the podcast because this kind of content is why I stopped making the podcast, because I don't want to do a show where what I have to honestly say is that I honestly think Upper Deck is not handling things well. Not handling things well at all. So I said this in the chat, and these are harsh criticisms. I was making harsh criticisms of what Upper Deck is doing, and someone pointed out, "Hey, man, you're saying you don't believe what Fredo's saying. That's kind of like calling Fredo a liar." Now I could sit here and play mealy mouthed, backtracky. Well, let's play games with words. Um, I would not phrase it that way. To be clear, I don't think Fredo is a liar. I'm not even sure what Fredo's doing is lying. He's making a post that his boss told him to make. We all do what our bosses tell us to do. And if your boss tells you to make a public statement that doesn't 100% line up with the internal truth about what's going on with that product, you're a public relations guy. Like, putting a little spin on, like, that's the point of these kinds of jobs. Public relations people are there to help the public think the way their boss wants them to think. So the idea that they know there's never going to be another Versus expansion, but they don't want to say that because they want to try to sell off whatever backstock they have in the warehouse or whatever other reason, like that could be a dumb reason, but whatever the reason is, uh, they don't want to make the announcement now. That's his job. He's got to go say that. So I'm not going to back away from the accusation. Yes, by me directly saying, "Hey, I don't believe this post on Discord," that is me saying, I don't believe what Fredo's saying. I think what Fredo's saying is not adhering closely to reality. Um, and he took offense to this. He clearly didn't like that. This conversation went on for a while. And I did even say in one of my other chats, like, I probably need to reel this in. I'm in the official Upper Deck server talking about this. They probably don't appreciate that. Uh, so I did know what I was doing. I was poking a little bit, maybe more than a little bit. Again, please don't trust my characterization of what I said. If you guys have been around the Versus community long enough, you know I can sometimes be very blunt. I don't always live up to my ideals of trying to be kind and try to be conscientious. And I was upset. I am upset about this. Like, I think it is just absolute malpractice that Upper Deck can't be straight with their community. This is not necessarily a new problem, but it's a more acute problem given the position that the game is in right now. So yeah, I was talking to other people about how I just don't believe it. I don't think it's coming. And at one point I go to make a post and my Discord like flashes and kind of freaked out and I was dumped into a channel that I haven't opened in like a year. What am I in this server for? So I went to go back to continue my conversation. Couldn't find the Upper Deck server. That's weird. Did I accidentally click something? I thought maybe my Discord had an error. I went to rejoin the server and found I couldn't. And pretty quickly we found out that I had, with no warning, no comment to me, no attempt to get a hold of me and get me to moderate my behavior, nothing, booted. So before I get into the actual problematic part of all this, I want to say, in their defense, booting me without warning, I can kind of see the reasoning. There is a chance that had Fredo came to me and said, "Hey, dude, you got to chill. Like, stop saying this in the official server." I mean, he can't control what I say anywhere else, but stop saying this in the official server. That's a pretty reasonable request. And I'd like to think that I would obey it. That I'd say, "All right, man, fine, I'll chill." There is a chance it would have hit me as antagonistic and made me want to talk even more. Because I do kind of have that personality. Because the way I reacted to being banned was taking my theory that Upper Deck is not being straight with us, that Versus is never going to come out with another expansion, and they are shining us on by saying there's an announcement coming. I took that theory to every social media platform that I have with regard to this game. Because if they want me to shut up, well, I am going to talk more. Especially if they want me to shut up by going about it in this absurdly ridiculous way. So now we get into the actual insane part of this story. Um, me getting a little froggy on the internet and the Upper Deck people, instead of giving me a timeout or a warning or anything, decide to boot me. Okay, this is all sort of within what you would expect from like general internet stuff. People get a little crazy, mods get a little trigger happy, these things happen. When people realized I had been banned, uh, there were people within the now I can't go look at this myself, but I have seen the screenshots of it. Uh, they said, "Hey, what's going on here?" Somebody went and looked at the terms of service for the Discord server. I violated none of them. That was pointed out. I objectively did not violate any of the rules. And Fredo, this is where Fredo lies. This is where Fredo did tell a dishonest thing. Fredo says, because I was a playtester, I am held to a higher standard and I violated the code of conduct in our playtest contract, and that's why I was kicked out. This is simply factually untrue, and Fredo knows it's untrue and agrees with me. So I went back and checked the playtest agreement I have for a completely different game, has nothing to do with Versus. There is no code of conduct. There is no non-disparagement clause. This is a fiction. This was made up to try to essentially make me look bad, to justify them kicking me because they didn't like my mean words. So in the Versus Illuminati Discord, where Fredo is a member and where I am at, I added him and I said, "Hey man, until you can produce a contract with a clause that I violated and prove that I'm a liar, until that happens, I need you to refrain from telling people that I've violated a contract clause that doesn't exist in a forum where I can't defend myself." And Fredo immediately capitulated and said, "Yep, you're right." And he went back and edited his post to essentially make it sound like I violated a rule that didn't exist. Yeah, we're going to make it more clear. Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, I never would have agreed to playtest a different Upper Deck game if I knew it constrained my ability to talk as openly as I want to about Versus. I have been doing this podcast, or had been doing this podcast, for close to a decade. There is no way I would have given up my editorial independence to playtest some other game. That's ridiculous. I thought maybe there was a chance that this NDA was different than the dozens of other ones I've signed to playtest dozens of other games for a bunch of other companies. So I did go back and check it. And no, Now again, I welcome Upper Deck. Put the contract out there. Show. I'm not going to reveal it because I worry that revealing an NDA would in fact violate the NDA itself. I don't know, and I don't want to do that. I have never violated any of the NDAs I've signed for any of the games I've play tested. And honestly, I take very seriously this just fiction, this lie. So Fredo changed his post, not before other members in the Versus channel of the Upper Deck Discord read the slander and then assumed that because I had violated my NDA, that meant I had leaked information about an unreleased product. And this dude like argued with people about how I was a leaker for a while before an Upper Deck employee eventually did come in and correct him, and the guy corrected the record. It wasn't Fredo. It wasn't the guy who made the mess. He didn't come clean the mess up. It was a different Upper Deck employee. Um, that's pretty gross, man. I think it says something about Upper Deck as a company that this decision was made to ban me, and that they couldn't just defend it on the merits. They couldn't just say, "Hey, look, Ben was getting pretty mouthy in chat, and we figured at the very least he needed a timeout." We know they know how to use the timeout because they timed out some of the people who were calling out this ridiculous behavior of theirs. Uh, so we know they know how to use that feature. They just didn't choose to use it for me, which is pretty telling. This is honestly, this is not the first time where I felt a little singled out by Upper Deck. Circling back to the Midwinter situation, uh, I know prior to the Midwinter that my son attended and tried to play in, people who are under the age of 18 have played in Upper Deck tournaments, and I know they have also done so afterwards. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but this is a fact. Uh, but they know me because of the show, and they know my son. So the idea that he would like be able to just kind of go in there and play, it didn't fly. Now I will say the Upper Deck representative who came to Milwaukee and tried to make it up to Whitman that he had been essentially kicked out of the tournament. He did a pretty cool thing, but the idea that Upper Deck thought that it's wild. So this brings me to kind of like the idea that what Fredo was upset about was that I implied he was lying. And the first reaction to that was to say an untrue thing about me. Unfortunately, kind of, what do we do with these facts? Like, do I have to say it? I think, all right. So the last little bit I wanted to mention here, and I have not talked about this publicly before because I want Versus to survive and thrive, and what I'm about to say makes Upper Deck look pretty bad. Um, so I've kept it to myself. Actually, wardrobe change real quick. I normally wear baseball caps. I think this might be the first time I've ever put this on. So, Legendary Gamer. For anybody who's not aware, a few years ago, Upper Deck did something they called the Legendary Gamer Contest. People made videos. I think you could write essays. I don't remember all the details, but you sent this thing in, and then Upper Deck picked people who would win a bunch of stuff. The grand prize was like a trip to Gen Con. I think I got like a second or third place prize. It's been a number of years. It's hard to remember. But what I was supposed to get was a bunch of card sleeves, a bunch of dividers, an art print, 10 board games, and then this cool box back there that had like the shirt, the hat, other stuff in it, stickers. Um, so I was emailing back and forth with the initial contact person about this to try to like get my stuff. Now to be clear, this was a contest. Like Upper Deck didn't owe me this stuff necessarily. Like it's a bunch of free stuff, but they did the contest. They said I won, so okay. Um, the box with the like shirt and stuff that came like immediately, like almost before I knew I won. I think it was like the next day or maybe even later that same day. And the box with like the dividers and the card sleeves came really quickly too. But the board games involved a selection process. So and the art print, I was like, hey, instead of an art print, can I get one of those oversized versus card? You can't really see it. I've got a couple hanging back there, but can I get one of those oversized versus cards instead of one of the art prints that you have in the store? So my first point of contact was I think somebody named Jody, but then she left the company and I got handed off to somebody named Dylan. Maybe not in that order. I might have got handed off, then she left. And I've been like, there was 4 different people, I think, in the email chain trying to like get this sorted out. And like the games just never came. So after like a year, I reached out to somebody I knew who was friends with the guy who won the grand prize, and I was like, "Hey, did they ever get their games, or was this just like vaporware?" No, no, they got their games. So I tried emailing again, no response. I reached out to Richard, which that shows you how long ago this was when we still had Richard on the streams and stuff. And I'm like, Richard, what's up with this? So he put me in contact with another person, and out of the list of original games, I think there was a problem with one of them. Like it was, they didn't have it, or I don't know. But it was, so I had 9 games that I was like, okay, I want these. And then the Matrix Legendary was going to come out. So I was like, well, let me get the Matrix Legendary when it comes out, and you can ship that with my Versus card. And they're like, oh yeah, you can't get a Versus card. You have to pick an art print. Okay, no problem. I'll get an art print. I'll get Matrix Legendary. So at some point, I saw Matrix Legendary on the shelves at the store, and I'm like, oh, weird that this didn't get sent to me. Like, so I sent an email, never heard back, and I finally just gave up. I'm like, you know what? I didn't give them money for this. Like, this was a contest. It's been like literally years. It's been a hassle to get the 9 free games. I really appreciate it. Like, the plan was I was going to make a video opening this box and opening the box with all the games and talking about it and then playing the games. Like, I had all these plans. And then the like tooth pulling to get the prize that they said, like, here, this is, it was a prize, like if you borrow money from somebody, you shouldn't have to go ask them for that money back. They should volunteer. I kind of feel like now I do have some sympathy. Like, as a tournament organizer, there's been a few times where I've like put on a tournament, and the guy who was supposed to give us the game for free or whatever, the prize support like didn't come through, or the t-shirts we paid to get made ended up getting all messed up and were horrible, so they couldn't get sent out. Like, I understand things happen, and I have a lot of charity for that. But like, this is Upper Deck. There's a copy of Matrix Legendary somewhere that should have been sent to me. But like, I have never said anything about this before because I did not want to make a video or a podcast where I was just kind of coming at Upper Deck, because I thought it would make him look bad. Because I thought, like, hey man, I want Versus to do well. I don't want people like, for years when this narrative of like Upper Deck is this evil company has been out there, I have defended Upper Deck. I've said actually Upper Deck Entertainment, the subsidiary, was the company that like did the Yu-Gi-Oh card thing. Like, this is a different company. There's different people there. Like FFG, my Saga podcast co-host Josh talked about how with Star Wars Destiny that was like fumbled really badly, but like things are different in FFG, and you can see it in how they're handling Star Wars Unlimited. So I'm willing to let people grow and change, and like for things to be different. I don't feel like you have to hold, the things that happened a long time ago against a company forever. But man, I did not have Upper Deck lying about me on my 2025 bingo card. Uh, it's shocking. It's shocking. And honestly, had they just said like, look, Ben was talking too much trash, he would, I was, again, please, I encourage everyone, don't just take my word for it. Go read what I said, because it was sharp criticism. It was harsh. Maybe it deserves a ban, uh, regardless. But what I did not deserve was for an Upper Deck employee to say untrue things about me. Uh, it's especially rich considering the criticism of me was I was implying he was saying something untrue, and then he just came out and said objectively, provably untrue things about me. It's just, so again, don't harass anybody. If you have an opinion on this that you want to share with Upper Deck, I implore you to do it in a respectful way. And if you still want to buy Upper Deck products, I have no problem with that. I am not encouraging you to not support Versus System or Neopets or buy sports cards if that's the thing that you do. I imagine people who buy sports cards probably don't come to this channel. Uh, I'm just putting this out there mainly because I was so upset that this untrue thing was said about me, and that someone clearly read the dishonest statement and took it as me being an untrustworthy playtest partner. I had to address that. I, yes, I want to acknowledge Fredo edited his post to remove the dishonest part, uh, but it took like hours for an actual Upper Deck employee to say. Lots of community members were telling this person like Ben didn't leak. That's not what happened. Uh, Upper Deck should have cleaned that up right away, like immediately. They should have been on top of that. That's crazy that that was allowed to go on for as long as it did. Uh, so really disappointed, really upset um, with how this whole situation panned out. There's been a few people who have mentioned in Discord that it would be cool if me and Fredo tried to get together and talk about the situation. I would, of course, be open to that. I'd be open to talking to anybody from Upper Deck if they want to have an exchange with me about this or literally anything else. If they want to talk about verses generally, I'd be happy to do that. If it was up to me, I would say let's record it and let's make sure both sides are recording it so neither side can accuse the other of editorial shenanigans after the fact. Um, Honestly, I would want them to have a copy of it just so I could protect myself from those accusations, given what happened yesterday. It's a little, I'm not really in a place of trust at the moment. So I don't think that's likely to happen. I think this is probably going to be the last time I ever talk about Versus system. If people are curious if I will buy new Versus product if it comes out, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around the idea that Upper Deck would would do this. What, like not the ban, maybe I earned the ban, but that they would try to justify the ban to other community members, people I'm friends with, uh, by slandering me, by saying untrue things about me is just it's pretty head spinning, and it does make it pretty hard for me to want to give them my money in the future. But I do love verses. I do still really like Danny and Ben. I mean, literally yesterday, somebody reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I know you're not in the best place with Upper Deck right now, but I'm trying to organize a versus tournament in Orlando, Florida. Is there anybody you know that can maybe help me get that together?" Uh, and I helped them. Like I put them in contact with people because I care about versus. I think what Danny and Ben made here is like, in my opinion, the best card game I've ever played. Um, and it makes me sad how the end of this game is being handled. Um, that sucks. I never in a million years would have thought that. Not only did I get booted, I tried to reach out to my guy that I talked to with regard to like playtest stuff, and I couldn't even send him a DM. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know that he blocked me, but like I couldn't send him a DM. So it seems like Upper Deck moved pretty quick to cut me off from any of that. And you know what? Fair play. If they feel like that's what's appropriate, that's fine. As long as they make some effort to correct the record and not go around telling lies about me, that's at the end of the day, that's the best I can hope for. So uh, I know I've repeated this several times, but I think it's really, really important. I am not calling for anybody to avoid UD products. If you want to buy Legendary, I think you should. It's a great game. If you want to buy Versus, I think you should. It's the best game ever. I am definitely saying do not. If you want to make your opinions on this situation known, do it in a respectful, chill way at like the company as like feedback. Do not go after anybody. Don't say mean things directly to people. That's like, let's not do that. That's not cool. Let's not do that. Um, I feel like I've presented the facts of what happened as objectively as I can. Obviously, I have a perspective. Obviously, I feel kind of personally aggrieved by the way this all went down. So you have every reason in the world to think that my presentation might not be wholly objective. So I strongly, strongly encourage you to go read the Upper Deck Discord, see what initially led to the ban, and then in the Illuminati Discord, you can see Frodo and Mai's exchange. Fredo and Mai's exchange with regard to the inaccurate information about me violating a contract clause that doesn't exist. So read those things for yourself. Don't take my word for it. If you find something that I said wrong, again, comments. I'll do my effort to everything in my effort to try to correct the record. Um, so I I guess now this is all I have to say about Versus. This is definitely the last time I'm gonna talk about this game on the channel. I'm glad the podcast is already over because this would have made a terrible last episode, and this is not the way I would want to say goodbye to my favorite game ever. So with I'm one of those people when I get angry, I start laughing because it's just like it kind of diffuses it a little. usually helps me calm down, but like, man, this is a crazy situation. It's a crazy situation. All right, uh, go win some games.